Welcome to Mandula. We humbly invite you on a journey with us as we explore and deep dive in what it means to be human through this great time of awakening, generously sharing wisdom and practical tools that have helped us on our path of ascension, introducing other conscious leaders within our community to expand the collective mind to new possibilities.
Mandula inspires us to become balanced in body and soul, feminine and masculine, physical and spiritual, creating a bridge between heaven and earth. Within this podcast, we will be communicating with all parts of ourselves, understanding our true essence, discovering our life's calling, transforming and healing ourselves and the people around us. Without further ado, let us begin.
Welcome to another episode of Mandula. Katrina and I are interested in where today's going to go. We have been, as we typically do, feeling into the themes of what's been showing up, and indefinitely for myself, I feel like I am moving through a really big shift in identity at the moment and how I move throughout my life. I guess a discussion that I think, is really important when these things happen is what that means for relationships that we currently have, and I guess what it means for who we resonate with and who we don't anymore. And I guess to explore how we can best share this, because it's not our first rodeo. And I have been through growth before that was quite a leap, and so I have the awareness of that. And I'm not really sure 100% on how I want to do that this time. So I feel like through our conversation today, my intention is that we can get clarity and then share that clarity with others.
So, to put it simply, are you talking about when we outgrow people?
Yeah, when we outgrow self, what that can feel like. Like, I guess really exploring it from a internal perspective of self, but then what happens to our relationships around us when that occurs. So it's like both. Yeah.
What you just said then about outgrowing self, that really resonated with me, because we were having a conversation, not to like make it really light and fluffy what we were talking about, but I'm gonna anyway, which was, I was saying, I don't like, because I'm really intuitive, I get lots of messages, but I'm like, I'm getting a lot of death messages lately, and I feel so neutral to it. But I was saying, I imagine it's like another death of a version of myself, because we're constantly growing and evolving, and it's like a snake skin, right? We're shedding old snakes and skins and growing new ones. But I feel like I'm going through an internal death of an old version of myself, and I feel neutral to it, but it's kind of like feeling like, once again, I'm in a void. I should be getting used to these voids by now. It's like I'm not quite sure what's next. And it's hard to, I find it hard to connect with the right language around that when we're not quite sure where we're going ourselves. So if you're talking about maybe outgrowing some people in our lives when we're at this point in time, then it's tricky to know how to communicate that for it to land softly.
Yeah, and what was just coming through as you were saying that, because we know that everybody in our reality is a reflection of us. When we're outgrowing them, we're actually outgrowing that version of ourselves. And there was something, I'm not even going to go into actually what it was, but there is it's not a poem, but there's like a quote that is said, and the basis of it is like, if you're in a relationship and it ends, the sadness that you have is not so much for them, because they're just a projection of your inner reality, but more so the person who you got to be when you were with them. And so I feel like when relationships can fall away, it can be that void is not being able to connect in with that version of yourself that used to show up with them in a certain way.
Yeah.
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 You're in a void of that?
I mean, this is my morning, and this is new for me. I'm learning to be okay with very little words coming to mind. This has been, there's been a lot of internal, actually, that's probably what's happening. So normally how I would communicate outwardly to sort of understand what's going on or talk through things or connect with others. And I think that I'm fine-tuning my internal dialogue and creating that space by not finding those words for others is actually allowing me to get clearer on my own, where I'm at, my limitations, where I want to be more empowering, where I want to have things drop in that I maybe wouldn't have got to if I had entangled myself in a conversation that maybe I would have once done. And so a whole new area for me. Whole new area. I like to talk and I'm like, oh, you're silent again. Look at you go. So this is new space. Although I have a cool story to share from last week. So we've talked about, fears, especially in this season. We talked about fears and how we get to navigate fears and what they mean for us. And I had decided that I wanted to spend 3 days with my son with different homeschooling lessons that feel relevant on themes like what we talk about with Mandula. I was theming with him last week, and I was just showing the vision of the lesson, and we were talking about Earth being either a classroom or a playground, and I'm like, after last week, I'm like, it is both, and I want all of it. So we took the classroom out into the bush, into the forestry, and I asked my son to be there while I navigated a really big fear. And so for me, a big fear is big motorbikes. Like, I'm fine on the little ones, they're really fun. But big, powerful motorbikes, they legitimately send me into fight or flight. I get shaky. It just feels out of my control. And it was such a beautiful experience, like, for him to actually hold me in that. But I asked him, or said to him, his only responsibility in that was actually just to navigate his own emotional process. And so that allowed me to then do that for myself, right? So I knew that stuff would come up for him because he's learning how to equally contribute to others, because I'm helping him support himself. And so that's a beautiful gift to also offer other people that you love when he becomes a dad, all the things, right? And so he did it so beautifully. He was amazing, and I was absolutely smashing it on the bike. I was like, oh, look at me go. And then just when I was like comfortable, like, I think I'm done here, it all went to shit. But if I reverse engineered that, what happened was I was on smooth ground, and then over this slight hill was a downward slope. And I could make this story sound really cool and say it was gnarly. It wasn't. It was like a slight slope. But because of the rain, there was like ruts. And I had like a million different paths that I could have taken. But my mental story went, you might as well just crash at the top so that you don't get momentum and crash down the bottom. But it was all negative. It was sending me, no matter what, because we know our thoughts create our reality, right? And our beliefs and systems. And so no matter what, I set myself up for failure in those moments. And I literally essentially made myself crash and ended up having laid on the ground and went. But there was a sense of relief in both my son and I of like, oh, thank goodness we got that out of our system, because I knew there was a lesson in that. There was so many lessons for both of us. But what I wanted to get out of that was to slow down my mental thoughts and bring the unconscious to the conscious so that I could see what was going on. Now, that was a very physical experience, but I now know from there there are many places where my mind is not setting me up for success. It is setting me up for failure. And so I'm like, knowing that, taking that piece of gold. Yes, I was sore, I hurt my hand, and I was a little bit sore and sorry for myself, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat, because I'd do it again, and now I would change my thought process to be more empowering, right? But that piece of gold from that experience, I have spent a week working on that now. And so we then went into a painting workshop on the weekend, which again, I had all the old stories of, you're not creative, you can't do this, da 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 da, it's going to be rubbish, how embarrassing, da da da. And I took that gold nugget from that motorbike lesson, and I took it into the weekend, and it completely changed my experience. From in the past, when I've painted, I've had full tantrums, like feel like my inner child just is traumatized from that. However, this was a full rewritten story of such a fun, creative, can't get it wrong experience, because when I was wobbling through the painting experience, I'd pull myself up instantly, because it was so high. My consciousness was so heightened with what I'd brought to the surface from my unconscious lessons from the week. So it's so incredible what we can reverse engineer in our life when something goes deemed wrong. If we can be present enough to take ourselves back to 5 or 10 minutes beforehand even, and really get clear on what we were telling ourselves, and see where we can then tweak that, empower it, and then take that how many different places in life. Wow. Like last week was an amazing opportunity, full of lessons for both myself and my son, just on communication with self.
You're reminding me of, so for nearly 5 years ago, I had ayahuasca, the energy, visit me and wanted to work with me. And it just kept like showing up in my field and showing up in my field. And I had no expectations of what it would be like to actually have that. And so I ended up finding someone that I could book it through, and it wasn't as commonly known back then. And I went and had the experience, and my expectation was that I was going to be in this field of like amazingness and like be shown what I'm here to do and like all these incredible things. And some people do have that. Some people go into the medicine and they get that. However, for me, it was my thoughts. So I actually was shown through the medicine what was going on inside my head. And it has, as much as I walked away from that experience feeling like I got ripped off, and that I was like, that's not what I wanted to see. I was expecting some empowering thing. What actually I got was one of the best awarenesses that I probably could have ever been given. And that was being aware. And I didn't realize how unaware I was of my thoughts that were creating my reality. And so it has absolutely been a process since then of becoming aware of my thoughts. And then last year, I'd gotten to the point where I actually work with my thoughts now. So I think you said it in the last session, and I've said it in one before. It's like I use it as a personality in my mind, and there's this part of me that's saying this, that's the thoughts, and then there's another part of me that's having communication with that and going, okay, I see the thoughts, which are ego and usually constructs of the past, and could be conditioning, could be patterns, could be many things. And so I meet with those thoughts now. And so that I haven't completely been able to get to a point where I can just be and those thoughts aren't there. And I do think there's a possibility. Who knows? I haven't been there before, but anything's possible. But right now I really utilize those thoughts. And so, you know, for things like painting, or if I'm going to do anything, especially if there's like fear or a resistance that I feel, I go and have a conversation with those thoughts in my head and communicate it out so that I can have like a depth of understanding around where they come from, like, and understanding it and going, okay, well, that's not what I want to create anymore. So thank you, thoughts, for, you know, like for helping me to see that, and now I'm going to do things this way.
Yeah, because that's what we talked about last week. Now I'm remembering, because we have so many conversations in between Mandula too that were like, oh, what have we covered and what we haven't. But I was talking about like my daughter Hayley living from her heart, and then what gets in the way of that. We're talking about the heart and
Yep.
head, and I'm like literally last week fully went into that, what that looked like for myself as well. So yeah. So then I feel like I've witnessed myself going, okay, want to live from the heart, then the head's in the way, and then now today I'm sitting here in a void of like, okay, well, worked through so many of those thoughts.
Yeah.
Now I'm in a void. So then what's next?
Yeah, and I think because what you would have been doing was still playing from an now, what has become an old version of yourself that doesn't need to exist anymore because you've worked through that. And this is where I feel like I'm playing with some knowledge right now of a potential of a future that is not bound by limits anymore. And because I'm playing in this field of this, I am seeing everywhere where there's limits. And so literally everybody outside of me is me. So I'm seeing all of the places within me that are still having limits, in which I believe there is another timeline where we are limitless and we're just in creation energy. And I don't think that we do, like personally, I don't think that there has to be a school. I think that there gets to be just a playground. I think right now I'm still in the school of it, so I'm still seeing it in others around me where that limit is, and in myself, actually, not even just outside of myself. Even in my language and what I'm communicating right now, I'm seeing my own limits, my own constructs that are holding me in school, as opposed to it just being a playground. And I'm heading for the playground. I'm going there. And everybody gets to witness that journey. I'm not there yet, but I 100% know I'm going there. And that's where I guess that fear can show up in me of, oof, when I've like done leaps like this before, others couldn't relate to me anymore because they were still in the school, you know. And there has been fallout of relationships, which like I still to this day very much love, but we just don't understand each other anymore because we're playing in different
playgrounds.
Different playgrounds, yeah. And that can be, and I guess this is what I want to talk into, that can be really hard. I know that personally, when I, you know, and I know that there are many people out there right now that are actually going through so much change. It's just happening because of where we are planetary. It's happening astrologically. There are so many things coming in, and there's a lot of change occurring for all of us. And so I hope that this helps. But I know myself, when I deep dived about 6 years ago, my husband and I got to a point after maybe me, you know, really rapidly moving through, it was just self-development, I guess, back then. And then slowly dipping my toes into spirituality. And we were having a lot of clashes in conversations. I'd actually love to get him on the podcast and communicate this, because it'd be amazing actually to have his perspective on that, what that was like for him, to help others out there from the opposite, you know, like, but yeah, so it was something that, you know, we really had to like sit down with. The gap was becoming so vast that the person who, and I still, you know, now like see myself forever with him, but at the time it got a bit wobbly for us because we just weren't able to connect the way that we were able to. Our communications were getting misinterpreted because we just were coming from two different playgrounds. And yeah, it got to the point where, you know, I waited a really long time, and I was like, I can't stop going where I'm going. And I said to him, like, I love you. And we vowed, and I put this in my actual, what is it where you read your
Marriage vows.
marriage vows. I put it in our vows. I said when one of us chooses to like grow, the other one grows with us. Like we weren't allowed to break that contract. And I brought it up to him and I said, we vowed to each other that like when one person grew, because that's going to happen in life, we're going to go through different journeys, that we would follow. So I'm like, I don't know, and I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I need you to find something where you can meet me. And he did. He ended up, it came into his reality and he ended up finding a path, and he started to understand me more in where I was going. And then bit by bit, he was able to meet me there. But I needed to have that conversation. And so, you know, I guess it can get really scary when we do start to outgrow old aspects of ourselves and old identities. It can get a little bit, and I'm feeling it right now, a little bit scary of what that fallout could be.
Yeah, I've experienced the same thing many a times, actually. Many a times, because I'm always growing. And I really, we've had conversations about whether that's even fair, like in our home, because I know about myself now. I can't help it. It's who I am. Who I am is always going to be growing and evolving and looking for what's next and what's possible. And I couldn't imagine living life any other way. It's just who I am. And so I believe that when I do that, I set everyone else up for success in being able to choose that. But of course, it's a choice. Everyone's got a choice in life, and that is probably the biggest highlighted factor that, like that's our God-given right, is to choose. But we also get to choose how we grow and we evolve. I don't think anyone... you can't get out of it. It's like a toddler or a infant being born, can't say, I'm not going to ever be an adult, right? So growth doesn't just stop when you're an adult. Like that progression keeps going. It's just how we choose to navigate it, right? So I say it's who I am, but I actually think it's who everybody is. And everybody is growing. And I think where it's kind of gone wrong, and I don't even know if we touched on this, I think we did last week, is like... it's when we stop playing, right, is when we grow old. You don't grow... What is that saying? You don't grow old when you grow old when you stop playing. And that's the choice. That's the part of the choice. We're going to keep growing regardless, but are you going to choose to grow old and have it be like a slower, more painful process? Or, I mean, there's a million different avenues here, but I think the point that I'm trying to make is that choice is important, and communication, touching back on what you were saying, communicating our desires, where we're going, what we see happening, and then factoring in inclusion. If you have a vow to a husband, like how do we include who both of us are, where we're going? Like how do we include each other in our growth? Is, I think, what my husband and I are working on. We're always working on something, but I think that that's where we're at today in this moment too, because he has moments where he's like, oh, you've quantum leaped out of my scope of vision again, and now what does that mean for me? I don't even know how to become who I need to be there next to you, whereas I don't even worry about it. I do it a million times. It just looks different to me, right? But there is that fear of what if I can't? What if I can't? And that's his... Now, talking this out, I'm actually seeing his reverse engineering of obviously what's going on in his head to think that fear of what if I can't do it? Like, what if I fall off the wagon? What's going to happen then, right? Which, now that I know that, and this is what's so cool about conscious conversations, is that I will know then how to support him with that in my own loving way. So for me, what's highlighted in this episode is communication, and what it looks like to communicate in a empowering way for all.
I guess just to talk that out. So what that would look like for me. So it, like this, I guess new identity that I'm finding myself in hasn't yet ruffled my husband, not in this bout. So far so good. But if it were to, I think that the communication with me is just to acknowledge and own all parts of who I am right now. I guess speak into the vulnerability of, I realize that through what I'm experiencing right now can create change between us, and my desire is to hold the same love throughout the whole process, and really explain that I'm nervous. Like, I'm nervous that the new identity I'm taking on, that we might not be a match for a period of time, but we've found each other in the past, and so I know it's possible. Like, to just honor actually what it is. I think that it's important because that shows a level of care, because as you said, you're going to keep doing it anyway. I'm the same. I can't not. And if I chose not to, I would actually be abandoning myself for the sake of someone else. And I can't do that. Like, I just can't. It's like, it's kind of like being on this is the visual I keep getting. Is it an escalator? Like, it's not a lift. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, at the airport, they've got those flat ones, and I'm like, I'm going. Like, it's just, I can't stop it. It's like, I am naturally going to keep going, and I can't stop that. But really honoring that I have made a commitment in my relationship here, and really honoring that, you know, it is really important to me to keep that vow with my husband, and to maybe, like, yeah, keep the communication open so that we can do it in a way that feels healthy, rather than, and I think a lot of people could probably relate to this, but in the beginning of my journey last time, for the first year, while I was like, you know, becoming more positive and getting out there more and doing things, I was a bit ignorant to the fact that my husband may not want to do that. And so I was like, oh, you've got to do this. And if you just read this book, and if you, like, I was like trying to dump on him what he should do. And then I got to the point where I was like, actually, I don't want to tell you how to do it. I want you to find a way that you do it that's uniquely you. But this is where I am, and I really want you to choose that, you know?
Yeah. And I feel, to go back to our words, because you were talking a bit about limitation before.
Yeah.
And just in the last 2 hours, it's been really highlighted to me, like, because words, you know, people talk about spells. Well, spells are actually what we communicate into the world with intention, right? Our language does cast spells into the world. And when we know the potency of that, then I guess we have the opportunity to get more intentional and specific and careful almost of what we're putting out there. And so knowing that, what do we want to communicate to each other? What do we want to communicate about our relationships and where we want them to go, or what our heart's desires are? What do we want to communicate with our business partners, or the universe, or God, or whoever you believe in? Like, what communication? Because there is something so potent and special about getting the internal world out, communicated out. And so when I journal, because that's my go-to, that's how I sift and sort and release emotion and understand what's going on in my life. That's my personal go-to. There's something really special and magical that happens when I get it out onto paper. If I declare something, if I write something with solidness and confidence, I tell you what, it gets manifested. Like, it may take a little while, but once I really mean it and own it and put it out there, that communication, it manifests into reality. And so where I'm being pulled to is to sort of, speak into that. If you knew your voice and what you put out into the world was that magnetic and that powerful, what would you choose to put out into the world right now?
So this is actually my wobble of, because I feel like I'm in this void right now, and I'm aware that I'm catching my own language that is so deeply entrenched in limitations, that I'm feeling this new way. I'm aware that this construct is still at play within my language. And I'm on the bridge going, I'm scared to have conversations right now, because what it feels like is when I see limitations outside of me, or it feels like I'm literally having to pull myself up in moments. Like I'll have a conversation with you and go, boom, there's another limitation that I've got on myself. Like I'm having, I feel like I can't have fluent conversation even to that, because
Which is a limitation in itself.
yeah, like it's, I honestly, the level of limitations that I am seeing right now, because like I feel like the wisdom that I've had come through is to direct me to a path of having no limitations. So of course I'm seeing, because it's in my conscious now and not in my unconscious anymore, I'm so aware of the limitations in myself and others that I'm scared to have communication. I was like fearful of hopping on and communicating through Mandula, because the version of me that communicated in the last episodes and the last season, I feel like right now I'm seeing that limited version of myself, and I'm like, people going to think I'm crazy. I'm like, this is going to come across really crazy, because I could actually go against probably all of the advice that I gave, because it was limiting.
Yeah, which brings me back to that, where I started with. I feel like there's a death of self happening, which is how you would be feeling, right? So there's that death of self. But what I said to you before we jumped on here is that if we didn't have documentation of all of these versions of ourselves as we grow, then it would be really hard for someone starting their journey in spirituality or becoming more aware consciously to be able to resonate with that next version of where you're going, right?
Yeah.
Imagine someone just starting out and then you're like, there's absolutely no limits. Like they would be like, what do you mean? Like, this is so new to me. It's almost too much of a jump. So that's the beauty of when we can share every stage of where we're at. There will be someone somewhere that is like, thank you so much, because that's my next step.
And yet there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, don't go that way. It's so limited. Like, come this way.
Yeah.
Skip that process. Come here where there's no limitations.
But it's like saying to an infant, go for a run.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah.
Off you go. Get your joggers on. It's too far of a stretch. And so
that's a limitation, but like the fact that there is even stretches, why can't we just wake up to our infinite potential in this moment right now? What stops us from doing that? It's a limit. It's everything that you could come out with right now would only be a limit.
But an infant that's just come out of a womb physically doesn't have the physical muscles to go for a run. They haven't built the muscles yet. They haven't gone from stage to stage of jumping in a jolly jumper to get those muscles built.
Yeah, the infinite of their mind, which is what I'm more communicating about, is they know everything's possible, and so they keep trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. There's nothing stopping them from getting to a point of eating food and that
you've just given us the biggest piece of gold right there. So that if we make that our goal of limitless reality, but that doesn't mean that we get to skip the steps of building the muscle, like falling on our faces.
I want to.
And
I want to skip it.
You want to skip it?
I don't even want to tell myself a story that I have to go through a process to get somewhere.
Well, I'm really excited for you. So when you get there, can you help share? I just personally don't know how when you're anchoring something so big as a limitless reality, you've got to anchor it to where you're at as a human. And so we're still going to have to journey it.
I'm healing the vision that's impaired to think that I'm not limitless to be able to do everything.
I believe you are limitless.
Yeah.
But there's still, say if I wanted to, I absolutely can run a marathon if I wanted to, but right now I'd probably only get to the end of the street, because I can do it. I absolutely can, but in this moment, my physical body is not, you know what, maybe I could. But
this is where I'm like, I don't know how to have conversations anymore, because I'm like, is that a limit? Are you telling yourself right now a story that is limiting yourself?
well, I just think it's genius in itself, because if you can just keep asking yourself that in every moment of what you're trying to create, then that itself is a solution.
So I guess the question or the intention that I keep putting into my field right now is, help me heal this vision. The vision has been distorted. It's not the truth. Help me heal this vision. Help me heal this vision. Because I believe if my vision was healed, there would be no limitations anymore.
Healing is thinking that you need to be healed, to me, is limiting.
My language, like, this is what I'm saying. My language is still under the constructs of limitation.
Yeah.
So I'm not here yet, but I'm aware that I do truly believe this reality to be possible, and it goes against everything that I have learnt, in that I need to do something to get somewhere. That it in itself is the biggest limitation, because then you create steps for yourself. It's going to take this many, and every person's going to create their own set of how long that's going to take. But I think that we can get stuck as humans on this never-ending cycle of, like, I've got to do this to get that, and I've got to do this to get that. Fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm done with that. I want to be in the playground of just creation. I've known for such a long time now that I am a creator, and I'm ready to take that to fifth gear. Does 5 or 6 gears? It's 5,
I've
right?
got 6
You've
in
got
my
6.
car.
I'm taking it to 6 gears and beyond. Like, I'm ready to be so solar focused on that journey of creation, as opposed to what do I need to do to get there. I don't want to play in that field anymore. And whatever it takes, which I believe should be nothing, because it's just waking up to actually our true nature. That's what I want to tune into. What is my true nature?
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm going to take away from this. So last week I took away a really strong desire to understand my unconscious and my thoughts. And this week I am already taking from this, like, I'm going to be really observing my language, what I'm saying to others, what I'm saying to myself, what I'm putting out to the universe, my limitations. Like, I, for one, am going to be really just observing to start off with.
Yeah.
And then when I think I've got enough information with observing, I'm going to rewrite what I'm putting out there. I'm going to reverse engineer my limitations.
Yeah.
And I do believe, though, there's gratification in the journey, because if we're limitless, yes, but then I think if we're completely limitless and there's no need to keep growing and fumbling and working our way there, then what is the human?
Yeah, I think that, look at children. Like, I just think if you hang around children that have not yet had limits put upon them, they show you how you get to live in the human. It's play. It's fun. Every day's a new adventure. They have no idea what's going to happen. And they're in that energy of, creation constantly. And I think that that is what it would look like. And I feel like if we were to bring more of that back into our lives, with the ultimate goal of actually living like that, it comes back down to, and I believe this, I'm not there yet, but being able to be fully present, because you don't have that mind chatter anymore of all the stuff. Like, you don't have to be aware of that anymore, because it just doesn't exist anymore. So you can just be fully present in every moment and enjoy the playground, instead of thinking, oh God, if I go on that swing, am I going to fall off? Like, because of limitation.
It's such a bizarre, I'm really excited to see next week where we're at, because I'm there in the presence. What you're saying, I'm like, that's why I have very little language right now, because I'm so present and I don't have the mind chatter of, am I going to fall off the motorbike, or, whatever that meant in so many different, like, the chatter's kind of shushed. And now I'm like, now what?
Yeah.
Like, it is the in-between of I can't connect with drama. So if other people bring me that into my field, I have a zero tolerance. So I'm like, I'm not connecting with you on drama. But if we're not yet ready to fully connect in the creation and in the playground,
Like, I understand what you're saying because it almost feels like boredom there, but are you dancing more? Like, are you like just having fun in your presence more? Because that could be the choice of what you're going to fulfill it with.
I think I am. I am. However, what I want is more people to play with me and dance with me.
And this is the sadness of like the fallout, because it's like, you know, the way that we've related for so long and thrived in relating that way and really found empowerment in living that way. I don't know if I connect with that anymore. So what does that mean for us? So my answer to that is, because I've been pondering this with all of my relationships, is I wonder whether you'll play with me now. Like, if we don't have anything to heal because there's nothing to heal, then can we go in that playground? That's what I need more of, and I don't know. I have not, in what I'm having shown to me as a potential timeline that could exist, I've not yet come across anybody that I've seen playing in that field yet. And so it's making me nervous to like fully trust it and go there, because what if I go there and I'm alone? Like, that doesn't feel fun.
Yeah. And what was coming through to me was kind of almost like we're going back to about this time last season when we were about to go to Bali, right? And I'm just catching onto it, but it wants to leave the thought process. But it's almost like, all right, if my new communication, this is where the wobbles come up again, is that because we were, we do the work and then we get to do the Bali, right? So it's the balance of we work and we work through all the things and we heal all the things and and then we get to balance it out because Mandela's balance. But I'm like, well, what if there's no work to do and it's all play? That's
Fun.
Fun, but then almost the chatter that is starting to come through is, who do you if you're the only one that gets to play through your whole life and you're not working anymore, then who the hell are you and how is anyone going to join you on that path?
And then what you've said to me so beautifully earlier on is people need the example. I put my hand up. I want to be the example. Choose me.
Just going to play through life. We're just going to play every single day.
Yeah, and like we did play in Bali. We followed every move on how we felt in every moment. That Bali was our playground. That was so fun. And how did we feel? Freaking epic over there. Mm-hmm. We came back so pumped and we're like, copy and paste this into our lives. And then for me, I've gone back into the limitations of life and I'm like, ugh.
But the work that I've been doing has been, when I think about it, it's really like, come on guys, like I want to help you do the work so that you can come with me. But I think I'm in this void of like, I've literally gone through that journey of all the stereotypical, I've healed this and I've done that. And I'm like, I don't mean to poo-poo it because it's very valid, but I'm like, there comes a time where you've worked on yourself enough. We're not really that broken. We're not really that broken, guys.
This is what I'm saying. How long do we stay trapped in that cycle of, there'll always be I'll always find something if I stay on the healing. I'll be like, oh, this came up and like, I'm not.
What I'm observing is half the shit that comes up for me lately is not my shit. And I'll be like, oh, I'm going to help you with this again. But I'm like, no, I actually just don't think you need help with it. I think you just need to, come on, let's go play. That'd be the answer for you. Let's actually just go and jump in a waterfall. Yeah. Like we could sit here and we could talk it out, or we could put some music on and go for a drive. Yeah. And find some really cool place that we can go for a swim. And
the only reason that wouldn't work for someone is if they think and they're limited by the thought that they have to work it out and heal it in order. You can choose it both ways. But if someone believes that it has to be worked out and they have to understand it and they have to get to a conclusion, they'll jump in the waterfall, experience the play, and then still revert back to it because the limit's still there, right?
Yeah. And it feels safe. I think there's actually an underlying safety for a lot of people in playing and understanding that healing process, because that was me for a long time. If I understood it, it felt safe. But if I didn't understand it and I wanted to go play, what if something happened? What if something happened in the playground because I didn't understand what I was dealing with,
And
right?
this is like the fear of where I'm going as well. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't even know if anyone's going to join me there or whether I'm just going to be there on my own. And I don't know how people are going to respond to me when I'm pretty much going against an old version of me that existed. I feel crazy myself right now in this process of not being there and yet not feeling attached to this part of myself anymore. It's an unfamiliar ground, but what I can bring it back to, because I know we're getting close to time, what I can bring it back to is the knowing that I've done this before and I've taken chance and I've walked on a path before that allowed me to really grow. And what I can say is that I have created a life that I didn't even know possible. So if my body is asking me to, I've already, built the trust. If my body is asking me to take another journey of which, then I really can reflect on that and say, well, if that was possible, what else is coming? And get excited about that.
Yeah, and it's a choice. There's no right or wrong. I think that you and I are just ready to play it out and learn and evolve and grow in the playground, which is exactly bringing it back to the motorbike. Like my intuition. So if I talk about safety, in the past, I'm going to work through that, through my journal, I'm going to work through that fear and I'm going to do it that way. And by the time I get on that motorbike, I'm going to be empowered. And it was like, no, actually, I'm just going to be human. I'm going to get on the motorbike and I'm going to fearfully just do it. My intuition knew I was going to crash. I had all the guidance saying, you're gonna crash. This is gonna happen. And that's not my thought. That's different to what my thoughts made me crash. My intuition was like, you haven't got yourself here. But I'm like, I'm gonna choose to do it this way anyway, because I'm here to play. I'm here to actually, and I quantum leaped that experience, got everything I needed out of that experience. Probably, I don't know, could have been weeks, months, years of, rather than doing it my old safe, gonna work through it, and then by the time I get onto it would have been years. By the time I actually got onto that motorbike, it would have been years time for me to actually work through that fear of it. And now I'm like detached. I don't really care about the motorbike. I care that it doesn't have power over me anymore. And that is a big lesson in itself. If anything has power over you, that any limitation, because that motorbike for me signified a limitation.
Yeah, okay. So I know that we're getting close to time, but I'm going to run over. So something that has been in my field in this last week is I was listening to a podcast and they were speaking on the thing that we fear. And so this would be in the physical, what you're talking about. The physical was actually what quantum leaped you. And it was a guy that was talking on abundance and wealth. And he had done a study on many very, very wealthy people. And the number one thing that they had in common was they all had the ability to push through that fear and physically do the thing in this life that scared them the most or they had the resistance around. And there is like almost an exchange within that abundantly gives back when we're prepared to do that.
The willingness.
Yeah, the willingness. And I feel like it's just linking into what you're talking about with the motorbike. It's like, I don't want to do it safely. I'm just going to boldly choose this. And then you quantumed.
Because the fear wasn't that I was going to fall off or hurt myself. That was never the fear. The fear was that something had something over me. Yeah. And I will never allow that in my life. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to, whatever that thing that is over me, I'm going to look you straight in the eye and we're going to do this. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. For me, in that instance, it was the motorbike. But guess what? We can look each other in the eye anymore. I'm like, you may say you've got one up on me because I fell off, but I don't see it that way. I'm like, I have no emotion around that anymore.
So that for me is online on any platform truly sharing my internal dialect in every moment, because I'm going to be this way one moment, and then I work in seasons, and then I'm going to be that way in another moment. And like, yeah, like there's a irrational fear around me doing that. And right now I'm like, Trina, just go up and just do it today. Think of the whole, and that you might differently another day, and it might be something another day. Like, just continue to show up. The fallout will happen if there's going to be a fallout of people who resonate or don't resonate. I don't actually care about that. It's actually showing up. Like, it feels vulnerable to show that much of myself, like the complete depth of who I am. And so in each day I'm going, just hit the record button. Just hit the record button. Whatever comes out, comes out.
Yeah.
Just hit the record button. So right now I'm pushing through that, because for me, I'm not scared of physical things and jumping out of planes and swimming in deep water with sharks. Or like, I don't have as much those. It's more about being fully seen. And I think that, how can I be the example? Let's say that I do end up getting to this limitless potential, right? How can I be the example for others if I'm not showing up in each moment, in each mindset, in each... If people don't see a journey, then they don't know the possibility. They just see the outcome, and some people can't relate to that. So it will be too far a stretch. Yeah. So my fear that I'm pushing through, and I'm trying to do it on the daily, and especially in the moments where I'm feeling really introvert and don't want to show up, they're going to be the ones, it hasn't happened yet, but they're going to be the ones where I want to push through the most, because I do believe that it would quantum leap me. Yeah,
in my experience it does. And we might fall on our face sometimes, and that's part of going from the infant to the toddler to the crawling to the walking, right? It's showing that's the human. What we were talking about. It is literally the journey, and we can play it safe and we can go slow, and that is totally fine. Or we can fall on our face and we can go quickly, which is totally okay. There is no wrong, just progression forward in a more conscious way where you're in the driver's seat. Doesn't matter which way you choose, but make sure that you're in the driver's seat and you're not responding to life, I think, is the biggest. Even if you're on the driver's seat and crash, it's fine. My hand says it's fine. It healed, okay? Like, it may be a bit bruised, but it's fine. But yeah, so anyway, to wrap it up, I think we're pretty much at time, but what I'm going to be working on is communication this week, of just putting out there in a more empowered, more conscious communication within relationships, within self, and to the universe, I think.
And I feel like my week ahead, I feel like I'm going to continue on the path that I'm on right now, and when it's in my field, communicate to those that are around me that I'm going through something right now, and just share vulnerably, and let them know that I don't know where I'm headed, but this is how I'm feeling in this now moment. And to continue to show up and really allow others to see into me.
Yay, that's awesome. So good. All right, thank you everybody for joining us, and that's us for another week. Thank you. Bye. Thank you for joining us in another episode of Mandala. We want to acknowledge your contribution in the co-creation of our new evolved world.
Sending you all so much love, and until next time, remember, you are the creator.